I'm talking with John with White Rabbit, and he just kind of showed me a game that looks really cool. It's called Death Gambit. It's being published by Adult Swim, but White Rabbit is the developer. So what's Death Gambit?
So Death Gambit is this 2D action RPG. It's definitely inspired by many games of the genre, like the Castlevania series, and you'll see a little bit of the RPG elements of the Dark Souls series as well. It's one of our biggest inspirations for the game. And you also have its own big non-linear world. You explore it as you want. You can go to a level that you want, unless it's too hard, at which point you could do it if you're really good, but we kind of made it in such a way that you kind of go on whichever direction you want, kind of. So yeah, it's a big non-linear world.
Okay, so I mean, I'm hearing a lot of like Dark Souls, Metroidvania kind of things. So what makes Death Gambit different from those other games?
Yeah, well, so there's a big emphasis on making sure like that the combat and the bosses are really exciting. So there's a lot of big differences from the Souls series, for example. Like you can have up to 2 weapons. They could be melee or ranged, and at the same time you also have a shield. You always have a shield. And there's abilities that you can equip at a save point. You can have up to 3 abilities at all times. And the whole idea is to make the combat, make it feel like you always have a decision to make, or like you could always get better. And the game's really like a big boss fest. It really is just how do you keep improving your character? How do you keep beating the next big challenge? It also stands out because some of the bosses are actually a little bit Shadow of the Colossus inspired. They're huge and you can climb them. And I don't think we've seen anything like that in a 2D game before, so we think that helps us stand out.
You're speaking my language. It's one of my favorite games of all time. So, I mean, what other games kind of inspired you with this game? Kind of like, other than Castlevania, Dark Souls, and things like that?
For us, yeah, so Shadow of the Colossus, story-wise, it's a lot of other stuff, like stuff from Studio Ghibli, and even like a lot of other, Attack on Titan was for the story was actually pretty big inspiration. Although for bosses and everything, MMO rating was actually a huge inspiration. We wanted to make the bosses to be very complex and have things that we've never seen before in terms of like unique mechanics. We also added this mechanic which I've never seen in a game, where like if you do well against the boss, you will get rewarded for it with experience. And it's kind of like a high score system. If you do better, you get more, you get rewarded. If you do worse, you don't get anything. And so our bosses are challenging. So it kind of rewards you for doing better each time.
Is there kind of like a mechanic where you kind of can go after the same boss again to try to improve your score?
So that's another thing. Our bosses are immortal. This is called Death's Gambit. You're kind of serving death to conquer immortals, because death doesn't like immortals, obviously, right? So you have to figure out how to actually deal with the fact that they're immortal, and you can come back. And if you do them in different ways, you might get different items for beating them in different ways. And there's also NPCs, and you have to figure out who's immortal and who isn't. And maybe if you kill the wrong NPC, maybe he'll come back and be really mad at you when he sees you again. That's kind of like some of the main mechanics of the game, yeah.
So, I mean, is this kind of like the first game you've ever worked on, or are you kind of like old pro at it or something like that?
Well, we're pretty young. I mean, we just graduated. This is our first game since graduated, but I worked as an intern at a mobile game studio called Backflip Studios. I worked on a few titles there. And I also worked on an RTS student project my last year, which is called The Masters, and that's coming out on Steam actually very soon. Except the whole design was done ages ago, so I started working on this game after I was done with that.
So, I mean, what's your part in this? Like, yeah.
I'm a programmer and designer. I made the initial prototype for the game, yeah.
I mean, the game looks fantastic. Like, I really like how it looks, and it feels really. I mean, it feels solid already. It's like, where are you in the development of this game? Are we like a long ways off, or kind of are we past the alpha stage?
So we're releasing 2016. We're definitely about 40% to 50%. So yeah, that's probably the best I can really say. We're not an alpha yet, but our goal is 2016 for sure. It's definitely coming out then. We can't give an exact date because we want to make sure the game is good and we don't want to rush it.
Of course, the game looks great. Just a little bit about like your own personal background. Like, what kind of games have you played like that's kind of influenced? I mean, I guess we said a lot of them.
All those games that I just mentioned, I play a lot of games. So the latest couple games that I've been playing were Bloodborne, Witcher, and now Metal Gear Solid 5 in a couple of days. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the Metal Gear Solid series. So like bosses are a big thing in our game, and all of them are hopefully going to stand out as being very unique, but still have that Dark Souls influence, where like the whole thing is the combat. Like you got to make sure you commit to your attacks and read that bosses correctly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this Gambit looks pretty cool. I liked what I played of it. The very short. Kicked my ass. But that's good. So thanks for joining us, and yeah, have a good PAX.
To you too.